Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 54 based on novel. So let's start. A deathly silence enveloped the Sky Lightning Island. The din that was originally present had suddenly disappeared. Many pairs of eyes were somewhat downfallen as they stared at the two corpses falling from the sky, that were slowly turning colder. Before this took place, none of them had expected this outcome. After all, the two of them were genuine profound death stage experts. 2 strikes. Lin Dong did not use any probing attacks when he fought. Instead, he directly used 2 signature killing moves. Evidently, the results were quite terrifying. From the time that Lin Dong first arrived at the Sky Lightning Island, the fight between him and the grey-haired old man duo only lasted for slightly more than 10 minutes. However, the victor was already decided in that time. The Lightning Emperor Scepter and the Divine Lightning Exterminating Demon Eye, which was an upgraded version of the Desolated Demon Eye. Both their debuts had clearly impressed and startled the crowd, even including Lin Dong himself. How is this possible? Pang Hao's expression was pale as he stared at the grey-haired old man duo, who were just killed by Lin Dong. A wild and violent lightning glow flashed within their bodies. Clearly, even the Yuan spirit within their bodies were destroyed by that lightning glow after they were killed. The speed in which Lin Dong had delivered the killing blow had exceeded Pang Hao's expectations. The experts from the 9 Serene Gate all had faces filled with shock and horror, and they no longer had the same haughtiness as they did before. After 2 profound death stage experts were killed, they finally understood that this murderous god in front of them was not someone that cannon folder like them could deal with. Huff. A cluster of white vapor vaguely mixed with lightning was slowly spluttered out from Lin Dong's mouth. The 2 signature killing strikes from before caused the Yuan power within his body to boil. He did not expect the Lightning Emperor Scepter and the Divine Lightning Exterminating Demon Eye to be this powerful. It was likely that even the grey-haired old man duo did not expect that. Otherwise, they would not have been defeated so miserably despite having put in so much effort. Unfortunately, there is no medicine for regret in this world. I gave all of you a chance. Lin Dong slowly lowered his head and looked at Pang Hao's group in an expressionless manner. The Lightning Emperor Scepter in his hand once again formed a brilliant lightning glow that hurriedly danced on it. It emitted a wild and violent fluctuation. Lin Dong, what do you want? Pang Hao looked at Lin Dong's eyes, which were void of emotions. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart as he cried out sternly. Those experts from the 9 Serene Gate hurriedly clustered around Pang Hao. Their eyes were filled with caution as they stared at Lin Dong. If you dare to kill me, my 9 Serene Gate will definite hunt you till the ends of the world. It has already come to this. Why are you still saying such foolish words? Lin Dong looked at a somewhat pale Pang Hao. A mocking arc was lifted on the corner of his mouth. In the next moment, an icy chill suddenly rose in his eyes before he suddenly disappeared. Be careful. Those experts from the 9 Serene Gate had a drastic change in expression after they saw Lin Dong vanish. Bang! Lightning suddenly resounded above their heads the moment their cry sounded. A bright lightning once again turned into a 1,000 feet large lightning scepter. After which, it was accompanied by an unusually wild and violent strength as it smashed downwards ruthlessly. The many experts hurriedly combined their powers. Majestic Yuan power surged. However, it had only came into contact with the lightning scepter, before an indescribable overbearing strength crazily came eroding downwards. Immediately, many of their defenses collapsed. Boom boom boom. Many human figures spat out blood and flew backwards in a miserable fashion. Pang Hao was also completely exposed under the lightning in midair. Lin Dong, do you really think that I am afraid of you? Pang Hao's face was ashen. However, his eyes revealed a violent and brutal expression. An explosive cry sounded. Clenching his hand, a savage black long spear appeared. A sharp ripple was emitted. 9 Serene Earth Demon Spear. Pang Hao held a black spear in his hand. Majestic Yuan power surged. A 1,000 feet spear glow looked just like a charging ferocious beast, as it carried a monstrous evil aura and shot directly towards Lin Dong's head. To me, the current you is weak and worthless. There was a cold chuckle emitted within the lightning. Immediately, the lightning was suddenly torn apart. The lightning scepter with flashing lightning came exploding downwards, smashing on the 1,000-feet spear glow in a ruthless fashion. Bang! The two made contact and thunder resounded. The seemingly ferocious and sharp spear glow collapsed immediately. Meanwhile, the lightning emperor scepter hacked downwards with ease. Finally, it mercilessly smashed against Pang Hao's head, in front of his startled eyes. Boom! A low and deep voice spread. Pang Hao's head was just like a shattered watermelon that suddenly exploded. Blood spurted out in every direction and the entire scene was extremely bloody. Swoosh! A golden light suddenly shot out from his body the moment Pang Hao's head exploded. It fled into the distance with all its might. A vicious and sharp roar was vaguely emitted. Lin Dong, remember this. My 9 serene gate will never forgive you. Lin Dong wore a cold and indifferent expression and he did not move. Majestic mental energy swept out before they transformed into a large hand that penetrated through space and grabbed that golden light. Ah, no! Pang Hao screeched miserable. Bang! However, his miserable cry had only just sounded when the large mental energy hand clamped down and directly crushed that Yuan spirit. Ah! A miserable scream spread far into the sky. As those experts above the Sky Lightning Island stared at that skinny figure, a chill involuntarily rose in their hearts. He was simply far too vicious. He actually refused to even let that Yuan spirit off. That fellow is truly ruthless. Some people exchanged glances with each other. A desire to withdraw rose in their hearts. The treasure might be tempting, but it was only worthwhile if one was alive to enjoy it. The strength that Lin Dong displayed had clearly far exceeded what they were told. He had only fought for a short while, but he had already killed 2 profound death stage experts. Moreover, his attacks were extremely decisive. Liu Xiangshuan observed this scene from a short distance away. Her pretty face had also turned exceptionally grave. The 2 profound death stage experts from the mysterious Sky Hall had also landed beside her. Their expressions were no longer as calm as it was at the start. Does the mysterious Sky Hall wish to intervene in this matter? Lin Dong's eyes glanced at Liu Xiangshuan and softly asked. Liu Xiangshuan looked at Lin Dong, whose expression was so calm that it seemed as if the deaths of those 2 profound death stage experts had nothing to do with him. Her heart felt a little chill. She was aware that if she was to attack Lin Dong, the latter would definitely show no mercy, despite her heart-stirring beauty. The man in front of her had a heart as firm as stone. He was someone she could never contend with. The eyes of those 2 profound death stage experts beside Liu Xiangshuan sunk as they prepared to step forward. Hold it! Their bodies had only just moved when Liu Xiangshuan suddenly cried out. She stared at Lin Dong as she said, I apologize for what happened previously. Our mysterious Sky Hall will no longer intervene. Young miss. The middle-aged man duo had a change in expression. Liu Xiangshuan waved her hand and said, I will report this matter to our top brass. Our troops here are unable to threaten him. Why the need to make pointless sacrifices? We can join forces with the Yuan Gate members. The middle-aged man said. Liu Xiangshuan gently exhaled. Her voluminous chest rose and fell gently as she muttered, It's pointless. Listen to me. Her instincts were always extremely sharp. Ever since Lin Dong showed himself, she could feel an extremely intense threat from him. It felt as if there was a terrifying creature hidden within the latter's body. The middle-aged man duo hesitated for a moment upon hearing this. Finally, all they could do was to nod their heads reluctantly. Lin Dong glanced at Liu Xiangshuan and softly said, In that case, let all our bygones be bygones. Although Lin Dong did not fancy the mysterious Sky Hall, he also understood that the trio from the Yuan Gate were the most troublesome ones to deal with. This was because in their bodies. Lin Dong slowly lifted his head. His eyes were locked onto the Huiyuan trio from afar. An indifferent voice sounded, there seems to be something strange about your bodies. It's the Yimo, right? Hui Yuan, who was wearing a smile while he observed Lin Dong's massacre, finally froze up when Lin Dong's words sounded. Atop the mountain peak, the smile on Hui Yuan's face slowly stiffened. An extremely sinister fluctuation seemed to surge in the depths of his eyes. The Li Lei duo beside him also gently clenched the hands hidden within their sleeves. A black aura lingered swirled at their fingertips. Yimo? What is that? The smile on Hui Yuan's face stiffened for a moment before it slowly disappeared. He stared at Lin Dong and laughed in a faint voice. Lin Dong was also staring at the Hui Yuan trio without blinking. At this moment, a black glow and a lightning glow were surging from the depths of his eyes. However, outsiders could not see even a trace of it. Since Lin Dong first saw the Hui Yuan trio, he had felt an uneasy sensation in his heart. Initially, he thought that it was because the three of them were disciples of the Yuan Gate. However, that feeling had instantly swelled substantially after meeting them again. This time around, Lin Dong had also detected that the feeling did not originate from him. Instead, it came from the two great ancestral symbol within his body. That sensation was filled with repulsiveness and even hatred. Other than the Yimo, Lin Dong was unable to think of another creature in this world that could cause the ancestral symbols to feel such repulsiveness. Lin Dong was clearly quite shocked by this. He could not fathom the relationship between the Hui Yuan trio and the Yimo. From their appearance, they were indeed human. However, the ripples from the ancestral symbols were definitely real. In that case, the only answer was that the bodies of the Hui Yuan trio likely contained something strange, or they were disguised Yimo. It must be said that these Yimo had concealed themselves extremely successfully. If it was not because Lin Dong had two great ancestral symbols in his body that were detecting and giving him feedback simultaneously, it was likely that even he would not have discovered the Hui Yuan trio's secret. It seems like the Yimo have thoroughly infiltrated the human world, Lin Dong deeply inhaled. His eyes were burning as he stared at the Hui Yuan trio and slowly said. Hui Yuan's expression remained indifferent. However, Lin Dong could still detect the dark and insidious expression that flitted across his eyes. If you really believe that we will let you escape alive after uttering such words, I'm afraid that you are gravely mistaken. Hui Yuan laughed faintly. We will definitely take your life today. Oh, killing to silence me, huh? Lin Dong smiled. However, his smile also contained thick murderous intent. From the looks of it, the Hui Yuan trio should be related to the Yimo. Coincidentally, if he could finish them off, he might be able to obtain some information related to the Yimo. Although Lin Dong was aware that it was currently not a wise decision for him to come into contact with the Yimo, as an owner of the ancestral symbol, especially someone like himself who possessed two of them, this meant that there were responsibilities that he could not evade. Even if he continued to hide, the Yimo would look for him eventually. In that case, it would be better to find an opportunity and take the initiative. Given Lin Dong's character, he refused to simply sit back and wait for his death. The others around Sky Lightning Island were lost as they listened to the conversation between the two parties. Even Liu Xiaoxuan and the rest slightly frowned. Other than special exceptions like Lin Dong, the only ones who knew about the existence of the Yimo were mostly peak experts in this world. Hence, it was no surprise that Liu Xiaoxuan and the rest did not know about it. Brother Lin Dong, the three of them are very strange. Mu Lingshan hurriedly warned as she watched Lin Dong and the Hui Yuan trio face off. Lin Dong nodded and softly said, Lingshan, do not intervene. I will deal with them. Mu Lingshan hesitated for a moment upon hearing this. However, she still ended up nodding her head. She could sense that Lin Dong's strength seemed to have greatly improved. The Hui Yuan trio before them might be powerful, but Lin Dong was no pushover either. Are you planning on dealing with the three of us alone? Do you think that we are like the hairless little Yuan Kang trio? The silver-haired Li Lei's expression was filled with ridicule as he looked at Lin Dong and said, Your eventual fate shall all be the same. Lin Dong held the Lightning Emperor scepter in his hand as he slowly walked forward while intense green light swiftly surged out from within his body. A faint deep dragon roar was emitted. The sound was filled with the feeling of tyrannical power. Since he has such courage, let us oblige him." Hui Yuan laughed. However, his expression appeared exceptionally dark and solemn. He had a cautious character and clearly understood that Lin Dong's strength had soared greatly compared to 2 months ago. Although it might be dishonorable for the three of them to attack him together, Hui Yuan evidently did not care about such matters. He was the type of person who would do anything to achieve his goal. All the so-called rules did not hinder him at all. In his opinion, being stubborn and insisting on a fair one-on-one fight was an extremely foolish deed. It's just as well. Chen Ling, whose skin flickered with a jade-like luster, also smiled a little and nodded. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed as he looked at the trio. The Yuan power within his body suddenly whistled while majestic mental energy started to howl in his Niwen palace like a gale. He was aware that the Hui Yuan trio was definitely more difficult to deal with than the grey-haired old man duo. Moreover, there was no telling what level Yimo was hidden within their bodies. Everything must be faced with prudence. Lin Dong's eyes suddenly hardened as the Yuan power within his body galloped. He had seen that the Hui Yuan trio on the mountain had actually strangely vanished. When Lin Dong saw this strange scene, his eyes faintly flickered. However, he did not panic. Instead, he slowly shut both of his eyes as majestic mental energy began to spread. They appeared like layers of invisible web that extended as they monitored even the slightest fluctuation in the area. Many experts watched the scene in the sky. The expressions in their eyes were somewhat grave. Clearly, they were able to detect the dangerous hidden current within. An enemy which was hidden in the dark was clearly rather terrifying. This almost frozen silence enveloped the sky. Lin Dong held the lightning emperor scepter as he stood there with both of his eyes shut. Majestic Yuan power whistled and gathered around his body. Disappeared her? Lin Dong softly muttered to himself in his heart. He discovered that even though his mental energy had spread, he was still unable to discover any signs of the Hui Yuan trio. The three of them seemed to have strangely disappeared like smoke at this moment. Although the situation was somewhat strange, Lin Dong's mind was instead becoming increasingly calm. The noise around him had been cut off at this moment. To him, he was the only person left standing in the sky. In this state, Lin Dong's mind seemed to have transformed into a clear mirror that reflected everything in the area. Through this reflection, three smoke-like ethereal figures finally appeared in Lin Dong's mind. However, by the time Lin Dong had discovered these three smoke-like figures, they were already only 10 feet from him. Swish! Lin Dong's eyes abruptly opened. Darkness emerged within one of them while the other was filled with lightning and thunder. An extremely bizarre sight. Swoosh! Three indescribably sharp black lights suddenly cut through the air at this moment. They contained an extremely lethal fluctuation as they spread apart and targeted Lin Dong from 3 directions. One at his throat, one at his heart from the front and the final one also at his heart but from the back. These 3 attacks were unimaginably quick. They reached Lin Dong's body the split second they appeared. After which, they directly penetrated Lin Dong's body amidst many exclamations. "He's been hit." A series of shocked exclamations spread. Who could have imagined that the Hui Yuan trio had actually attacked in such a fashion? There was practically no way to defend against this. Something's wrong. However, several alarmed exclamations quickly sounded. This was because they had discovered that no blood had spluttered out when the 3 black lights cut through Lin Dong's body. Lin Dong's body was also gradually fading. After image. 3 shocked exclamations echoed in the sky. Immediately, 3 human figures appeared. The Hui Yuan trio were clearly momentarily stunned. They similarly did not expect that their target was actually only an afterimage. Leaving behind an afterimage and escaping from right under their eyes. What kind of astonishing speed was this? Careful. Hui Yuan's eyes were dark and solemn as he suddenly let out a stern cry. Rumble. Just as his cry was heard, rumbling sound suddenly appeared in the sky. An enormous dark shadow covered the area and turned into a giant cauldron. The mouth of the cauldron was just like a huge beast as it descended and directly swallowed the Hui Yuan trio. Swoosh! The burning sky cauldron swallowed the trio while Lin Dong's body also appeared with ghost-like speed. At this moment, a pair of huge dragon wings were unfurling behind him. The dragon wings flapped, causing even space itself to be slightly distorted. "Senior Wang Yang, your sister shall be avenged by me today." Lin Dong's eyes were ice-cold as he looked at the burning sky cauldron. Immediately, his body moved and he swiftly charged into it. He was aware that it was extremely difficult to deal with the Huiyuan trio. If he wished to finish them off, it was likely that he would have to use both of the great ancestral symbols together. 3 figures stood in the air within the burning sky cauldron. An indifferent look was displayed on their faces as watched Lin Dong slowly appear before them. Soon after, they casually observed this space within the cauldron. There was not even the slightest bit of nervousness or unease from being trapped in this place. "I did not expect that you would possess a pure Yuan treasure that has a domain within it," Huiyuan smiled and remarked in an indifferent tone as gaze swept the area. "This is a good place to kill someone and bury his corpse," Chen Ling said with a grin. His gaze was akin to the terrifying sharp edge of a blade as it slowly swept across Lin Dong's body. "Indeed, regardless of what techniques you use here, no one from the outside will be able to see it." Lin Dong replied to him with a faint smile and a nod. "Oh, is that so?" Huiyuan chuckled before slightly tilting his head. A playful expression akin to a cat teasing a mouse appeared within his icy gaze as he said, "I never imagined that you would actually know about the existence of Yimos. From your words, should I assume that you've already admitted to my earlier guess?" Lin Dong spoke out in a soft voice. This time, Huiyuan no longer denied as a peculiar smile surfaced on his face. Slowly extending his hand, traces of black qi started to appear and swirl on his palm. This black qi was not the death qi that profound death stage experts possessed. Instead, an extremely cold and sinister evilness was contained within it. It was Yimo qi. As I expected. Lin Dong exhaled deeply as his gaze turned substantially gloomier. He stared at the Huiyuan trio with a burning gaze as he said, "The reason you 3 wanted to enter the Thunder World was more or less to save that Yimo King, right? Ha ha. You truly possess quite a bit of information. Did that Mo Luo tell you about it?" Huiyuan said as he grinned before continuing, "So, can you tell us how is that esteemed one doing now? In the face of the blazing ancestral symbol and the thunderbolt ancestral symbol, do you think that your esteemed one will be able to live?" Lin Dong replied with a sneer. The pupils of the Huiyuan trio contracted while a cold and sinister fury flashed within their eyes. Although they had already anticipated such an outcome, after confirming it, emotional fluctuations that were hard to conceal still appeared on their faces. "How vicious. With the strength of us 3, we are indeed unable to deal with that Mo Luo. Nevertheless, someone will find trouble for him sooner or later. As for you, we will deal with you today," Huiyuan said in an indifferent tone. Lin Dong gazed at the Huiyuan trio who were erupting with killing intent and smiled, before suddenly speaking out, "Since you 3 have hooked up with Yimos, that goes to say that your Yuan Gate is collaborating with Yimos, right?" This guess made Lin Dong's heart slightly tighten. If it was only the Huiyuan trio that had connections with Yimos, killing them off would do the job. However, if a super sect like the Yuan Gate was in cahoots with the Yimo, how serious of a matter would this be? "Although you'll definitely die today, I feel that some matters are best kept secret from even the dead," Huiyuan slowly replied. "Your nonsense ends here, brat. Hand over your life to me." The moment his voice rang out, the eyes of the Huiyuan trio instantly turned sinister. Boundless Yuan power surged and spread like a storm as a powerful pressure enveloped Lin Dong. "Don't think you can do as you please on my turf," Lin Dong replied with a soft laugh as chilling killing intent erupted from his eyes. Soon after, his hand seal changed and the domain within the burning sky cauldron started to warp and distort. In the next instant, 8 gigantic scarlet-red gates started to slowly surface. Bang! The instant the 8 scarlet gates appeared, the temperature within the burning sky cauldron immediately skyrocketed, causing even the Yuan power in the area to become scorching hot and berserk. Kai Kai! As for the Yuan power pressure that was heading towards Lin Dong, when it was 100 feet from him, it turned into white smoke and dissipated. Use your full power and kill this kid. Hui Yuan's pupils slightly contracted as he gazed at the 8 scarlet-red gates that had appeared in the sky. The rampaging fluctuations from them caused him to faintly feel some danger. He immediately roared as the trio turned into smoke in a split second and shot out in a peculiar fashion. I've said before that this is my turf. Those tricks of yours are useless. Lin Dong watched as the trio disappeared with an ice-cold gaze and sneered. With a wave of his sleeve, scarlet-red rays of light burst out from the 8 gates in the sky. The rays of light were as swift as lightning as they shot towards a certain spot some distance in front of Lin Dong. Under this red light, 3 figures appeared in that seemingly empty space. Furthermore, the powerful energy contained within the red light forced the trio to miserably retreat several steps. Lin Dong looked at the Hui Yuan trio that had been forced out as his seal changed again. The 8 burning sky gates in the sky instantly rumbled as they started revolving. Ray after ray of scarlet light shot out of the gates. Interweaving together at lightning speed in the air, they transformed into a gigantic and complex array. Bang! Upon forming, the array instantly expanded. In the next instant, under the ugly expressions that appeared on the faces of the Hui Yuan trio, it enveloped them within it. 8 level burning sky gates, execute the devils. A cold and detached expression hung on Lin Dong's face as looked towards the trio that were trapped within the array. At this moment, a low roar suddenly rang out from his mouth. Lin Dong knew how formidable the Hui Yuan trio was. If he was to face them head-on, even the current him would have trouble swiftly finishing them off. Therefore, he did not hesitate at all and activated the strongest power of the burning sky cauldron. Back then, he had used the burning sky gates to cause serious injuries to the nefarious bone old man as well as that old freak demonic scorpion with his initial profound life stage strength. Now that he had reached the perfect profound life stage coupled with his peak initial divine symbol master mental energy, the power of the current burning sky gates would make one speechless. Hum hum. The gigantic array continued to tremble as scarlet-red energy rapidly gathered. A gigantic volcano started to take shape in the air above the array while rampaging fluctuations continued to radiate from it. As the Hui Yuan trio gazed at the volcano that was forming above them, their expressions started to change. It was likely that they had sensed how formidable this move of Lin Dong's was. At once, the trio took action simultaneously, sending swift and fierce attacks that violently slammed against the scarlet-red screen in torrents. However, although the light screen continuously shook, they were ultimately unable to shatter it. Suppress! A low roar suddenly rang out from Lin Dong's mouth. Instantly, the 10,000 feet large volcano abrupt formed before descending in a crazy manner. Bang bang bang. As the volcano descended, the air instantly exploded. Even the ground below rapidly collapsed, an extremely horrifying sight. The Hui Yuan trio watched as the reflection of the volcano rapidly magnified in their eyes. Immediately, the trio swiftly pressed their bodies together. 3 abnormally boundless Yuan power condensed together, transforming into 1,000 feet large glowing Yuan power pillar that collided against the volcano with a loud noise. Boom! An astonishingly loud sound resounded across the area, causing even space itself to violently tremble. However, this deadlock merely lasted for a split second before the 1,000 feet large glowing pillar rapidly collapsed. Containing frightening power, the volcano shattered the glowing pillar, before viciously descending before the trio's grim eyes. The ground shook as if an earthquake had occurred. As the gigantic 10,000 feet large volcano pressed down onto the ground, it looked like a giant dragon. Scarlet-red lava containing rampaging fluctuations flowed from its top. Who? Lin Dong gently exhaled. His gaze was tightly fixed on the volcano that had pressed down on the Hui Yuan trio. If it was in the past, he would have long become weak from the exhaustion of Yuan power. However, the eyes of the current him still flickered with a bright light. Compared to the previous time he had activated the 8-level burning sky gates, the current Lin Dong was much stronger than before. The boundlessness of his Yuan power was sufficient for him not to fall into a disastrously weak state after activating the burning sky gates. This shouldn't be all they have, right? Lin Dong thought as he looked at the land which was gradually becoming peaceful again. If the Huiyuan trio were only ordinary experts at the initial profound death stage, this strike of his was sufficient to suppress them. However, it was a pity that the strangeness of the trio caused even fear and dread to surface in Lin Dong's heart. That was all due to the Yimos concealed within their bodies. Bang! While Lin Dong's eyes were flickering, the volcano which had already turned quietly furiously shook all of a sudden. In the next instant, black chi that hid the sky and covered the earth erupted from the base of the volcano. Kai Kai! As the volcano came into contact with the black chi, it actually started to corrode at an astonishing pace. While this happened, evil fluctuations that could blot the sky slowly started to spread. The things concealed within their bodies have finally come out. Lin Dong coldly looked at the volcano that was rapidly being corroded as his hand slowly clenched tightly. Black light and a lightning glow stealthily surfaced within his eyes. From the looks of it, he still needed to rely on the power of the two great ancestral symbols to completely exterminate these Yimo. This video will end here.